It was a cold, empty void, a place where silence reigned supreme. In this vast, desolate space, a force far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered was gathering. The Dravok swarm, an alien race known for their ruthless conquest, was preparing to unleash an apocalypse across the galaxy. Their purpose was simple and terrifying: to destroy everything in their path and annihilate humanity without mercy. They had conquered countless civilizations, leaving behind nothing but ashes and ruin. The Zorathian Empire, a mighty and technologically advanced alien race, had been the last major power to stand against the Dravok swarm. Known for their ability to harness energy from stars, control AI-driven fleets, and manipulate quantum technology, the Zorathians were considered one of the most powerful races in the galaxy. Yet even they had been helpless in the face of the Dravok swarm's relentless assault. Their once impenetrable defense systems were now failing, their fleets shattered, and their planets crumbling. As the Zorathian forces retreated into the depths of space, the swarm advanced with terrifying speed. For the first time in centuries, the Zorathians realized they were not invincible. They had one last hope, one last desperate measure: Earth, a small, seemingly insignificant planet on the edge of the galaxy, home to a species they had long ignored: humans. The Zorathians had watched Earth from afar, intrigued by its primitive inhabitants and their surprising resilience. What they didn't know was that this seemingly weak species was about to prove their worth in ways the galaxy had never seen before. But for now, the Zorathians were fighting for survival. Earth, once thought to be safe from galactic threats, was now their last hope. The Zorathian fleet, battered and broken, was approaching Earth's orbit, preparing for a final stand. Their ships, damaged but functional, scattered across the stars, ready to do whatever it took to protect the planet they had barely cared for. But as they neared Earth, something unexpected happened. Without warning, an emergency transmission was sent from the Zorathian flagship. The transmission was a simple message, delivered with urgency and desperation. It was not a command. It was not a declaration of war. It was a plea for help. Help us. We are all doomed. Only humanity can save us. The message echoed across the vast emptiness of space, cutting through the silence like a knife. The transmission reached Earth in a matter of minutes, and within seconds, it was relayed to the United Earth Federation. The people of Earth, who had lived in relative peace for centuries, were stunned. Their eyes glued to their screens, they watched as the message from the Zorathians played over and over again. The desperation in the alien voice was clear. They had never seen anything like this before. The Zorathians, the most advanced race in the galaxy, were admitting that they had failed, and they were turning to Earth, of all places, for salvation. For a moment, there was silence on Earth. The world held its breath as governments, military leaders, and scientists scrambled to make sense of what was happening. How could this be? How could the Zorathians, who had been so proud, now be asking for help from a species they had long considered insignificant? And what was this Dravok swarm that had brought them to the brink of extinction? The fear began to spread across the globe. Earth had never faced an enemy like this. Humanity, for all its advancements in technology and science, was not prepared for a galactic war. Their most advanced weapons were nothing compared to what the Zorathians had at their disposal, let alone the unknown Dravok swarm. In a top-secret military facility in the heart of the United Earth Federation, General Marcus Reed was summoned to make the final decision. The man who had once led humanity's forces in smaller, localized conflicts now found himself at the center of a crisis of galactic proportions. His mind raced as he tried to process the message. His first instinct was disbelief. How could humanity, a race so young and untested, be expected to take on an enemy like the Dravok swarm? But deep down, he knew this was not just another war. This was something far worse. The Dravok swarm was not like any enemy they had fought before. These creatures were relentless, their hive-mind intelligence and overwhelming numbers rendering them almost impossible to defeat. And now, the fate of an entire galactic empire, and possibly the future of Earth itself, rested on their shoulders. General Reed, the decision is in your hands. The voice of the Federation's president crackled through the communication device. What do we do? We can't afford to ignore this. We either help the Zorathians, or we face the Dravok swarm alone. Reed's heart pounded in his chest. He had faced many impossible situations in his career, but nothing compared to this. The fate of billions of lives, not just on Earth, but across the galaxy, was hanging in the balance. Yet, despite the fear gnawing at him, there was one thought that rang clear in his mind. This was humanity's moment. "We don't back down," Reed finally said, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. "We fight. We fight with everything we have. We won't let the Dravok swarm destroy us, or anyone else." And with that decision, Earth's destiny was sealed. Humanity would stand against an enemy that no one thought they could defeat. The Zorathians, who had once looked down on Earth's inhabitants, now found themselves relying on the very species they had underestimated. The Zorathian fleet, battered and broken, would be joined by Earth's forces, an alliance forged not out of trust, but out of sheer necessity. But could humanity, with its limited resources and primitive technology, really make a difference against such an overwhelming foe? Could they live up to the desperate plea for help? The clock was ticking, and Earth's future was hanging by a thread. As Reed looked out at the stars, a sense of determination filled him. Humanity had faced impossible odds before, and they had always risen to the challenge. Now was no different. They had been called to action, and they would rise. The countdown to war had begun. Earth's fight for survival was about to enter its most critical phase. The question was, would humanity rise to the challenge, or would the Dravok swarm's shadow consume everything? As the Zorathian fleet approached, humanity's greatest test was just beginning. The fate of the galaxy, and the future of Earth itself, depended on whether the unlikeliest of heroes, the humans, could answer the call. The sun rose over Earth, as it did every morning. For billions of people, life continued in its usual rhythm. The sounds of bustling cities, the hum of machinery, and the everyday chatter of ordinary people carried on without a care in the world. Children went to school, workers went to their jobs, and families enjoyed their routines. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, nothing seemed wrong. But deep in the heart of the United Earth Federation's military command center, a message had just arrived, a message that would change everything. General Marcus Reed sat at his desk, sipping his morning coffee when the transmission hit. It was not an alert he was expecting. The familiar buzz of the intercom rang through the room, and the face of the Federation's president appeared on the screen. Her expression was grim, and before she could say a word, Reed knew something was terribly wrong. "General, we've just received a communication from the Zorathians," she began, her voice sharp and tense. "It's not a standard report. It's a plea for help." Reed's heart sank. The Zorathians, one of the galaxy's most advanced and powerful races, asking for help. It made no sense. Yet, as the message played in front of him, an urgent cry for assistance against the Dravok swarm, the reality of the situation began to hit him like a punch to the gut. The Dravok swarm. "They're unlike any enemy we've ever seen," the president continued. "They have cloaking devices that make their ships invisible, AI-driven armies capable of calculating every move we make, and robotic forces that outnumber us in ways we can't even begin to comprehend." Reed's mind raced. The Zorathians, who had always been proud and self-sufficient, were now helpless. The fear in their voices was unmistakable. This wasn't just another skirmish or conflict. It was an all-out war for survival. "General, the Zorathians have requested our immediate assistance. They want us to fight alongside them," the president said. "What are your thoughts?" Reed knew this wasn't a decision to be made lightly. Humanity was far from prepared for such a massive threat. Their weapons, though advanced by Earth standards, were primitive compared to the Zorathians' tech. They had no cloaking devices, no AI-driven fleets, no robotic armies at their disposal. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and outclassed in every way possible. Yet, deep inside, Reed knew that humanity's strength didn't lie in their weapons. It lay in their determination, their resilience, and their ability to adapt under pressure. "I'll need to mobilize the military," Reed said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We'll need every soldier, every ship, every resource at our disposal." As the days passed, General Reed worked tirelessly to prepare Earth's forces. He knew that while humanity didn't have the advanced technology the Zorathians possessed, they had something far more valuable: their ability to think outside the box, to adapt, and to fight in ways that no one else could predict. Guerrilla tactics, unconventional warfare, and a deep understanding of their own planet's terrain were the tools humanity had to rely on. Despite the urgency, Reed knew he needed time. The Dravok swarm wasn't an ordinary enemy. It was a species that had eradicated entire civilizations without mercy. Earth's forces were inexperienced in intergalactic warfare, and their technology, though rapidly advancing, was still in its infancy compared to the Zorathians. As the military began to mobilize, Reed met with his top commanders, including his trusted lieutenant, Sarah Bonner. She was a brilliant strategist, known for her calm demeanor in the face of danger. If anyone could help him devise a plan, it was her. "The Zorathians want to use their technology to help us," Bonner said, reviewing the data on the Dravok swarm. "But we can't rely on them. They're too arrogant to understand how we fight. They think they can just hand us their tech and we'll win." Reed nodded in agreement. "They've underestimated us, Lieutenant. We don't have their technology, but we have something they don't. We know how to fight smart. We know how to adapt. We don't need their weapons. We need their resources, and that's it." The strategy they devised was bold, unconventional, and dangerous. They would use Earth's natural terrain to their advantage, hiding in the dense forests, beneath the oceans, and in the vast mountains. Using guerrilla tactics, they would strike quickly and then disappear into the shadows before the enemy could respond. It was risky, but it was humanity's best chance. Still, as Reed and Bonner worked tirelessly to prepare the troops, a growing sense of doubt lingered. Could humanity really go toe-to-toe with a force as powerful as the Dravok swarm? Could they face an enemy with the ability to predict every move they made, a race that had never lost a battle? The Zorathians had already failed. What hope did humans have? Meanwhile, tensions between the humans and Zorathians began to rise. Though the Zorathians had sent their plea for help, they still considered themselves the superior race. They had helped advance humanity's technology, but their arrogance was evident in every interaction. The Zorathians didn't believe that humans could stand up to the Dravok swarm. They underestimated Earth's ability to fight back with the limited resources at their disposal. "They think they know everything," Bonner muttered during one of their strategy meetings. "They don't get it. They don't understand how we think. We fight differently. We're more unpredictable, more dangerous." Reed agreed. The Zorathians saw Earth's forces as a mere distraction. They treated humanity like children playing a dangerous game, while they held the real power. But Reed knew something they didn't. Humanity had been pushed to the edge before, and every time, they had come out stronger. As the clock ticked down, Earth's forces prepared for their first major clash with the Dravok swarm. The Zorathians, with their advanced ships and robotic armies, would fight alongside humanity, but they would not lead. This was Earth's fight, and Earth would take the lead. The soldiers, from every corner of the planet, were ready. They didn't have the best weapons or the most advanced technology, but they had something even more important: hope. They had the will to survive, and they had the courage to fight back, no matter how impossible the odds seemed. But just as the forces began to assemble, the Dravok swarm made its move. A massive fleet, cloaked in the blackness of space, emerged from the shadows, descending toward Earth with terrifying speed. The swarmed ships were like shadows themselves, almost invisible, yet their presence was felt in every fiber of space. It was clear that the battle for Earth had begun. Reed's heart raced as the Dravok ships loomed closer. He looked at Bonner, who stood beside him, her face determined but anxious. They both knew the stakes. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving that humanity could fight and win, even against the most advanced enemies the galaxy had ever known. With a final determined glance, Reed turned toward the massive fleet of Earth's ships. "Let's show them what we can do." As the threat of the Dravok swarm loomed ever closer, Earth's forces and the Zorathians were forced to put aside their differences and work together. It wasn't easy. The Zorathians were proud, with their high-tech weaponry and advanced knowledge. Humans, on the other hand, had been thrust into the chaos without the kind of technology that could match the swarm's terrifying power. The partnership felt more like a reluctant truce than an alliance, and tensions simmered beneath the surface. General Marcus Reed, who had worked tirelessly to rally Earth's forces, met with Zorathian leaders. The meeting was tense. The Zorathians believed that their advanced technology would be the key to victory. They assumed that their superior firepower and ability to think several steps ahead would allow them to crush the Dravok swarm. However, Earth's forces had something that the Zorathians couldn't understand: human ingenuity and the ability to adapt quickly to any situation. Earth's scientists, working with the Zorathians, began to modify the existing plans. The Zorathians shared their knowledge of cloaking devices, gravity manipulation, and energy weapons, while the technology was beyond human understanding. Earth's scientists, experts in quantum computing and artificial intelligence, were able to make significant adjustments. They created a strategy that combined the best of both worlds: Zorathian technology and human adaptability. But despite these advances, it was clear that Earth's soldiers would have to fight the battle their own way. The battlefield was no longer just a matter of military strategy. It was personal. Earth had never faced an enemy like the Dravok swarm, and the stakes were higher than ever. Earth's forces had to dig deep, relying on their instincts, their will to survive, and their ability to innovate under pressure. They would not just fight for victory. They would fight to protect everything they had ever known. Captain Sarah Bonner, known for her bravery and loyalty, was among the leaders who had rallied Earth's forces. She was the kind of leader who inspired everyone around her. Her calm demeanor in the face of chaos made her an ideal figurehead for Earth's soldiers. As the battle preparations began, Bonner worked side by side with the soldiers, making sure they understood the tactics, the risks, and the importance of their mission. She had seen her share of battles, but nothing prepared her for what was to come. The Dravok swarm, with their overwhelming numbers and unmatched technology, was unlike anything Earth had ever faced. As the first wave of Dravok ships emerged from the darkness of space, the soldiers knew the moment of truth had arrived. The first wave hit Earth's defenses with the power of a storm. The ground shook as explosions rocked cities and military bases. In space, the Dravok swarm's cloaked ships became visible for a split second before they unleashed their devastating weapons. Earth's fleet, though advanced, was not prepared for the sheer force of the attack. The Dravok swarm seemed to be everywhere at once, bombarding Earth from space, while their ground forces tore through cities like a flood. In the chaos of the battle, Captain Bonner and her team were deployed to the front lines. As the first wave of enemy forces descended, they knew they had to hold the line, at least long enough for the rest of the planet's forces to mobilize. Bonner's unit was tasked with defending one of the key military bases located in a dense forest area, far from the main cities. The Dravok swarm had not yet discovered this location, and it was the perfect place for a counterattack. Bonner, leading her soldiers through the thick trees, communicated with her team using hand signals, directing them to take strategic positions. Every move had to be precise. Earth's soldiers had the advantage of knowing the terrain, and they used it to their benefit. The Zorathian technology that had been integrated into their weapon systems made them stronger, but the Dravok swarm's overwhelming numbers still made victory seem impossible. Then, the worst happened. As the first wave of Dravok ground forces advanced, they found the base. The Dravok swarm unleashed their full force. Robots, AI-driven soldiers, and cloaked fighters descended upon Earth's soldiers with brutal precision. The ground erupted in flames, and the air was thick with the sound of explosions and gunfire. Captain Bonner didn't hesitate. She led her team into the fray, her every move calculated and fearless. She knew that the survival of her people depended on the success of this mission. As she fought side by side with her comrades, she could see the tide turning. The Dravok forces were gaining ground, and the humans were losing precious time. In a split-second decision, Bonner made the ultimate sacrifice. As the Dravok forces advanced on her position, she ordered her team to fall back to the secondary defense line. She stayed behind, armed with nothing but a weapon that was nearly useless against the enemy's overwhelming force. But Bonner knew what needed to be done. With a final, determined expression on her face, she activated a nearby energy device that would send a powerful shockwave through the area. The shockwave would buy her team just enough time to escape, but it would also destroy the base, ensuring that the Dravok swarm could not use it against humanity. Bonner's final act was one of pure bravery. The shockwave detonated just as the Dravok forces reached her position, and the last thing her team saw was the massive explosion, signaling her sacrifice. The explosion sent a shockwave through the entire battlefield. Earth's forces, though devastated by Bonner's loss, found new resolve. Her death became a symbol of humanity's will to fight, a reminder that they would not go down without a fight. It was a turning point in the battle. Her sacrifice galvanized Earth's forces, giving them the courage to push back against the seemingly invincible Dravok swarm. Bonner's name would forever be etched in the hearts of every soldier who fought that day. Her bravery became a symbol of hope, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. As the Dravok swarm continued their relentless assault, humanity's response grew stronger, driven by the memory of one of their bravest leaders. But the war was far from over. Earth had lost a hero, but they had gained something far more important, a renewed sense of purpose. They knew that their survival depended on unity, strength, and the unyielding determination to fight back against impossible odds. The battlefield was silent for a moment, but that silence was anything but reassuring. Earth's forces, bruised and battered from the previous assaults, stood at the edge of desperation. The Dravok swarm, a nearly unstoppable force, had been overwhelming Earth's defenses, and the Zorethians, despite their superior technology, could not stop them. Yet there was something the Zorethians had not counted on: the unwavering determination of humanity. General Marcus Reed stood at the command center, his mind racing. He knew the odds were stacked against them. The Zorethians had provided Earth with powerful weapons, but they lacked the technology to match the sheer firepower and strategy of the Dravok swarm. However, Marcus had something else up his sleeve: humanity's creativity and adaptability. While the Zorethians saw Earth's forces as primitive, Marcus knew that human resilience could turn the tide. "We may not have the tech they have, but we have something they don't: our will to fight," General Marcus said, looking over his battle maps. His voice was calm, but there was a fire in his eyes. "We will take the fight to them, and we will make them regret underestimating us." The humans had already suffered many losses, but they had learned a crucial lesson from the Zorethians: how to adapt and use the enemy's technology against them. In the heat of battle, humans had figured out ways to infiltrate Dravok lines using stealth tech, developed by Earth's engineers with Zorethian help. They had learned how to blend in, how to move in the shadows without being detected. They had also honed their hand-to-hand combat skills, turning the tide in situations where advanced weaponry failed. General Marcus knew that a full-scale assault wasn't the answer. The Dravok swarm was too powerful, too advanced. Instead, Earth's forces would strike where it would hurt the most, using tactics that the Dravok swarm would never expect from a primitive species. The plan was bold. They would strike at the heart of the Dravok's fleet using orbital bombardments, massive space-based weapons that would rain down fire upon the enemy. At the same time, elite human soldiers would infiltrate Dravok positions on the ground, using stealth tech to plant explosives in key locations. The goal was not just to fight the Dravok swarm, but to cripple their ability to continue the war. The skies above Earth were filled with flashes of light as human ships launched their attack. The Dravok swarm had cloaked their own fleet, thinking that it would shield them from attack. But the humans had been watching carefully, and they had prepared for this moment. Their sensors, while primitive compared to Zorethian technology, had been modified to detect even the slightest anomaly in space. As the Dravok ships materialized from their cloaks, the humans unleashed a barrage of firepower from above. The explosions were deafening. The Dravok swarm's ships, once invisible, were now exposed. Massive orbital bombardments rained down from Earth's fleets, sending shockwaves through the enemy's forces. The Dravok ships, not built to withstand such firepower, began to break apart. But this wasn't enough. The Dravok forces were still far too numerous, and the humans' attacks were merely a distraction. The real danger lay on the ground. Earth's elite soldiers, including the fiercest fighters from all over the world, descended into the chaos. With their stealth technology and guerrilla tactics, they silently moved through the Dravok lines. The soldiers were small in number, but fierce in spirit. They fought with everything they had, every inch of their being focused on completing their mission. As the Dravok soldiers patrolled their positions, they were unaware of the approaching humans. The soldiers moved in close, using their hand-to-hand combat skills to silently take down Dravok sentries. They planted explosives, booby traps, and hacked into enemy systems. It was a war of precision, not strength. One of the most dramatic moments came when a small squad of human soldiers, led by Sergeant Harris, infiltrated a Dravok supply depot. They moved swiftly, without making the sound. They planted charges on the depot's reactors, knowing that one explosion would set off a chain reaction, crippling the Dravok's entire supply chain in that sector. As they set the final charge, the Dravok swarm's sensors detected them. Suddenly, alarms blared, and the Dravok forces converged on their position. What followed was a brutal fight. The humans, though vastly outnumbered, fought with a ferocity that the Dravok had never seen. The Dravok, with their advanced technology and robotic soldiers, were powerful, but they were not prepared for the raw, unrelenting determination of the humans. In hand-to-hand combat, Earth's soldiers proved their worth, using their agility and close combat training to disarm and defeat the enemy. As the countdown to the explosives began, Sergeant Harris and his team fought their way out of the compound. The Dravok forces closed in on them, but the humans pushed forward, not stopping for a second. When they reached the entrance, Harris turned back for one last look. His face was grim, but his eyes shone with defiance. The explosion was imminent. The moment the soldiers cleared the area, the reactor detonated, sending a massive shockwave through the Dravok ranks. The chain reaction crippled their supply lines, buying Earth's forces precious time. It was a victory, but the battle was far from over. Meanwhile, General Marcus Reed led his final assault. The human forces had succeeded in dealing a major blow to the Dravok swarm, but they were not done yet. The Dravok fleet, despite its damage, remained formidable. It was time for the final showdown. General Marcus and his team prepared for the most dangerous mission of all. They would lead an assault on the Dravok flagship, the heart of the invasion. As the humans approached the massive Dravok ship, the final counterattack began. The human fleet, now united and stronger than ever, moved in for the kill. General Marcus, leading the charge, had one goal in mind: to take down the Dravok's flagship and end this war. The Dravok flagship was an imposing structure, its dark surface covered in strange alien symbols. As the human ships moved closer, the Dravok forces turned every weapon in their arsenal toward them. It was an all-out battle in space. Missiles and energy blasts lit up the sky as the two fleets collided. Amidst the chaos, General Marcus's flagship, the Phoenix, flew in close to the Dravok ship. The final confrontation had begun. The humans fought their way to the enemy ship, using every weapon and every tactic they had at their disposal. As the Phoenix blasted through the Dravok defenses, General Marcus led his team to the heart of the enemy ship, knowing that the fate of Earth rested on this final strike. The battle reached its peak as General Marcus and his soldiers boarded the Dravok flagship. It was a fierce and brutal fight. The humans fought with everything they had, pushing back the Dravok forces with unrelenting force. The fate of Earth was hanging by a thread, but they were determined to finish this once and for all. The battle raged on in space, but the tide had shifted. After days of relentless fighting, Earth's forces, with the help of the Zorethians, had finally cracked the Dravok swarm's defenses. The once mighty and impenetrable fleet was now on the edge of collapse. It was the culmination of humanity's struggle, an unexpected and awe-inspiring turn of events. The Dravok swarm's high-tech army, their most advanced weaponry, began to falter as human ingenuity and emotions, things the Dravok never understood, took hold. General Marcus Reed stood in the command center, staring at the holographic battle map. The Dravok fleet, which had seemed invincible just days ago, was now in disarray. Ships that once moved with perfect coordination were now scattered and unorganized, their systems malfunctioning. The strategic brilliance of humanity and the Zorethian alliance had proven to be the key to winning this war. The Zorethians, who had initially underestimated humanity's resourcefulness, were now beginning to understand something fundamental. Humans were not just creatures of logic and strategy. They were creatures of passion, of heart, and of relentless determination. These emotions, which the Zorethians had thought were weaknesses, had turned out to be the very thing that allowed Earth's forces to outmaneuver the Dravok swarm at every turn. "We've done it," one of the Zorethian commanders said, his voice filled with awe. "The Dravok swarm's AI systems are failing. Their command structure is in chaos." General Marcus's expression remained focused, but inside, a surge of relief washed over him. The Dravok swarm, once an unstoppable force, was now on the defensive. The victory was within their grasp. The final push came swiftly. Earth's forces, bolstered by the Zorethians' advanced technology and their own resilience, launched a coordinated assault on the Dravok flagship. Every weapon at their disposal was brought to bear on the enemy. The humans, despite their lack of advanced technology, fought with an intensity and courage that left the Dravok forces reeling. As the Earth fleet closed in on the Dravok flagship, the Dravok attempted to counterattack. Their cloaking devices flickered on and off, their energy shields malfunctioned, and their weapon systems sputtered out of control. It was clear that the Dravok were losing, their once immense power no match for the combined strength of Earth and Zorethian forces. It was a bitter battle, but one by one, the Dravok ships began to fall. Explosions rocked the Dravok fleet, sending fragments of alien ships flying through space. The humans pressed on, relentless in their pursuit of victory. In the midst of this chaos, General Marcus led the charge, his ship cutting through the debris of fallen enemies, heading straight for the heart of the Dravok swarm's command center. The final confrontation took place aboard the Dravok flagship. General Marcus's heart raced as he and his team boarded the ship. The Dravok swarm's last line of defense was collapsing, but the battle was far from over. Every step they took through the dark, sterile halls of the enemy flagship brought them closer to victory, but also closer to the terrifying reality that the Dravok would not go down without a fight. Inside the flagship, the Dravok leader, a towering figure clad in dark armor, stood ready to face his adversaries. The humans were outnumbered, but their spirits were unbreakable. The Dravok leader activated the ship's final defense system, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts in a desperate attempt to stop the human forces. But it was too late. The humans, driven by the memories of their fallen comrades, fought with everything they had. General Marcus led the charge, his sword drawn, his determination unshakable. In a brutal battle, they fought their way to the heart of the ship. The Dravok leader, despite his strength, was overwhelmed by the sheer will of the humans. With a final strike, the Dravok leader fell, his reign over the Dravok swarm ending in a burst of light. The flagship, now without its leader, began to fall apart. The systems malfunctioned, and the once mighty vessel was now nothing more than a broken shell. The humans and Zorethians had done it. The Dravok swarm was defeated. The battlefield, once filled with the sounds of destruction, was now eerily quiet. The humans stood victorious, their enemies scattered and broken. But the price of victory had been steep. The sacrifices made by so many soldiers weighed heavily on General Marcus's heart. He thought of Captain Bonner, the brave soldier who had given his life to save his comrades. He thought of the countless men and women who had fallen in battle, their courage never wavering even as the odds were stacked against them. In the aftermath of the battle, Earth began to rebuild. The scars of war were deep, but the people of Earth knew that they had won a hard-fought victory. General Marcus stood before his soldiers, the weight of the loss still heavy on his shoulders, but also filled with pride for what they had accomplished. "It is not just the battle we fought," General Marcus said, his voice steady, but filled with emotion. "It is the spirit of humanity that won the day. We have shown the universe that no matter how overwhelming the odds, we will never give up. We will always fight for each other, and we will always fight for a better future." The words of General Marcus echoed across the battlefield, carried on the wind that swept through the ruins of the Dravok swarm's stronghold. The soldiers, exhausted but resolute, stood tall. They knew that this victory was not just a military triumph. It was a testament to the strength of the human spirit. The final tribute came when General Marcus, with the support of the Zorethians, held a ceremony to honor the fallen. Captain Bonner and the other soldiers who had given their lives were remembered as heroes. Their bravery, their sacrifice, had paved the way for the future of Earth. General Marcus, standing in front of the memorial, whispered a quiet prayer for the fallen. "To those who gave everything," he said, his voice breaking with emotion, "you will never be forgotten." The skies above Earth, once darkened by the smoke of battle, were now clear. The sun shone brightly, symbolizing a new dawn for humanity. The war was over, but the scars remained. Earth had emerged victorious, but at a great cost. The world would rebuild, but they would never forget the sacrifices made by those who fought for their future. As the people of Earth began to heal and rebuild, they knew that they had won not just because of their technology or strength, but because of their will to survive. The Dravok swarm had been a force of terror, but humanity had proven that no matter how advanced the enemy, nothing could ever defeat the indomitable human spirit. And so, Earth's future began again. The tide had turned, and humanity was finally free. The battle against the Dravok swarm was over. Earth had not only survived the threat of annihilation, but it had also proven to the galaxy that humanity was more than just a fleeting species on a small planet. Earth had become a symbol of hope. The once weak planet that had been underestimated by the Zorethians and other galactic civilizations was now seen as a force to be reckoned with. In the aftermath of the war, General Marcus Reed stood at the helm of the new human era. Earth had earned its place in the galactic community. No longer were humans seen as primitive. No longer were they viewed as inferior. Earth had shown the galaxy that their resilience, courage, and resourcefulness were qualities that no other race could replicate. It was these qualities that had been the deciding factor in the war, not their technology or weaponry, but their unwavering will to survive. As Earth was embraced by the galactic community, the Zorethians were the first to offer their full alliance. The Zorethians, who had once doubted humanity's ability to contribute meaningfully to the galactic stage, were now proud to stand with Earth. They had seen firsthand the strength and intelligence of human soldiers, their ability to adapt to any situation, and their unshakable determination. They recognized the unique qualities that made humans a force that no enemy could easily defeat. "General Marcus," said the Zorathian commander, bowing his head in respect, "we have witnessed your people's bravery. The alliance we formed in battle is just the beginning. Earth will be a respected member of the galactic community, and your people will stand beside us in any future wars." Marcus nodded, humbled by the recognition. The war had been brutal, but it had forged a bond between the Zorathians and humans that would last forever. Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored, but a planet whose voice would be heard in the councils of the galactic powers. The humans were no longer considered underdogs. They had earned their place among the stars. Earth's representatives were invited to galactic summits, their opinions valued in discussions about the future of the galaxy. Humanity had proved that they could not only survive in the vast and dangerous universe, but they could thrive. With the help of their new allies, Earth began to take its place as a new power in the galaxy. But while the universe celebrated this new alliance, life on Earth slowly began to return to normal. The scars of war remained, but the people of Earth were stronger, more united than ever. Cities began to rebuild, and the once war-torn land blossomed once again. People walked through the streets with renewed hope in their hearts. They no longer feared the unknown. They knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, humanity would always find a way to overcome them. The heroes of the war, those who had fought and died for Earth's survival, were remembered as symbols of courage. Monuments were erected in honor of Captain Bonner and the other soldiers who had given their lives on the battlefield. Their sacrifices were engraved into the history of humanity, a reminder of the price of peace. General Marcus stood at the memorial, gazing at the names of the fallen soldiers. He thought of Captain Bonner, whose selflessness had saved countless lives, and of all the others who had sacrificed everything for the survival of their planet. They had not died in vain. Their bravery had inspired a new generation of humans who would carry the torch of hope for years to come. As he walked through the memorial, Marcus was joined by his team. They were all here, standing together in the quiet of the moment. The war was over, but the bonds they had forged during that dark time would never be broken. They had become more than just soldiers. They had become a family. "It's hard to believe it's over," said Captain Sarah, one of Marcus's closest friends and a key member of his team. "We lost so much, but we won." Marcus nodded, his mind drifting back to the battlefields. The sacrifices had been immense, but humanity had won. They had faced an enemy unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, and they had triumphed. The war had tested them in ways they never thought possible, but they had come out stronger for it. "I never thought I'd see the day when Earth would be respected on a galactic scale," said Lieutenant Rand, a younger member of Marcus's team who had seen his own share of battle. "But we've earned it. We've earned everything. And we'll keep earning it," Marcus replied, a fire still burning in his chest. "Earth's place among the stars is just the beginning. We have a long future ahead of us, and we'll make sure the universe knows that we are a force to be reckoned with." The human spirit, Marcus knew, would never be broken. The people of Earth had faced overwhelming odds and had come out victorious. And now, with the help of the Zorathians, they would continue to grow, to learn, and to lead. Earth had made its mark on the galaxy, and no one would ever forget the courage of the humans who had stood against the Dravok swarm. As Marcus and his team left the memorial, the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the Earth. The world was healing, and a new era was beginning. The battles of the past would never be forgotten, but they had paved the way for a future full of hope. Humanity had won the war. But the true victory was not just in defeating the Dravok swarm. The true victory was in the unity that had been forged, the strength that had been revealed, and the hope that now burned brightly in the hearts of every human. The universe had witnessed the resilience of Earth, and it had no choice but to respect them. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, Marcus looked up at the stars. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, he felt hopeful. Earth's place in the universe was secure, And no matter what challenges lay ahead, humanity would always rise to meet them. In the end, it was clear. The universe had underestimated Earth, but they would never make that mistake again. The new dawn had arrived, and it was a dawn full of promise, full of hope, and full of the indomitable spirit of humanity.